are listening to Lighthearted, the official podcast of the United States Lighthouse Society. My name is Jeremy D'Entremont. Welcome. Today is July 27th, 2025, and this is episode 322 of Lighthearted. Today we're going to listen to a conversation with the grandson of a legendary lighthouse keeper in New York. My co-host today is the chairperson of Friends of Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouses, Michelle Jewel Shaw. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jeremy, and hello to all of our listeners out there.
So how's your summer going so far, Michelle?
It's going very, very well. I'm really enjoying it. I'm not doing summer school this year, just enjoying the summer, growing things in my gardens. And We're going to be spending a week up at the lake in Wolfboro in just over a week now. So I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Been a little hot here in the
It has been. It's nice out today, though.
It is nice out today, nice and refreshing. You can actually breathe outside. It's very pleasant. Yeah. So as regular listeners know, you and I are very involved with the preservation of Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouse here on the New Hampshire seacoast. And I know there's a special event happening on August 7th, National Lighthouse Day. So what's happening, Michelle?
So we're doing a fundraiser that evening at the UNH Picnic Pavilion, which is on the grounds of the Coast Guard station right near the lighthouse. We're doing a picnic event to help raise some funds for rebuilding our walkway that was destroyed a few years back. We'd really like to get that repaired so that we can, or I should say replaced, so that we can start taking visitors to the lighthouse again. But we're going to have, some light picnic foods, some salads, sandwiches, things like that. We're going to have a silent auction. There will be volunteers on hand to discuss the history of the lighthouse. Though we won't be able to get close to the lighthouse, we'll still be able to have a view of the lighthouse. So I'm hoping it's going to be a great event, and I hope that a lot of our listeners are able to make it out to that event. You can check our website for to get tickets for the event. So that would be great.
Yeah, that's PortsmouthHarborLighthouse.org. And people can also get tickets through PortsmouthNH.com. That's the kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? The venue we use for ticket sales. So PortsmouthNH.com. You can just use the calendar on there, or go to PortsmouthHarborLighthouse.org. And you and I will be there, of course. So regular listeners, fans of this podcast, get to meet the famous Michelle and Jeremy as they go.
Yes.
Yeah. So looking forward to it. It's a beautiful spot right near the mouth of the Piscataqua River, looking across it, Kittery, Maine, just across the river. It's just very beautiful. So, and you and I miss the lighthouse. So it's always nice to be back at the lighthouse these days.
Absolutely.
And speaking of all that, there's also some other interesting stuff in the works. There's some good news regarding the fundraising to rebuild the walkway or footbridge to the lighthouse. So
there is. We have some pretty big news. So we recently received a donation from NEL, which is the New England Lighthouse Lovers Organization.
Yeah.
We received a grant from them that we had applied for back a few months back. So that's going to be put, towards the preservation of the walkway or the rebuilding of the walkway. Lighthouse Credit Union has just come on with us to help us out with some fundraising and publicity and things like that, helping us out also with a donation towards rebuilding our walkway. So hopefully they're going to help us really get the message out about the importance of preserving lighthouses.
Just specifically, they're donating $5,000 to help kick off the fundraising, and New England Lighthouse Lovers, NEL, also, as you said, gave us a donation or grant of $5,000. So
yes,
that's $10,000 kicking off the fundraising campaign. And the new walkway is going to cost the neighborhood of $100,000.
Correct.
It would take a few cents. So that's our goal, and be great if it could happen by next year, by next season. That may be optimistic, but we'll see. Certainly by 2027, I hope we'll be giving tours again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing to mention about the picnic event. We're going to be having T-shirts that are being made up. In the front says Save Our Lighthouses, and the back is our logo with Portsmouth Harbor Light as well as Whaleback Light in there. And then our sponsors such as Lighthouse Credit Union. They'll also have American Lighthouse Foundation will be represented on those t-shirts as well, as we are under, their umbrella of the organization. So those t-shirts will be for sale for $25. And so we're hoping to get some of those sold and have everybody wearing the Save the Lighthouses t-shirts.
Yeah. And by the time people hear this, we may have those t-shirts for sale on the website. I know that's part of the plan as well.
Yes.
So it's a nice design. And again, Lighthouse Credit Union helping with that. It's all great stuff. It's all very exciting.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's move on to today's guest. Please help me out, Michelle.
Sure, Jeremy. Frank Schubert spent 43 years as a keeper and caretaker at Coney Island Light Station in New York. When he passed away in 2003, he was believed to be the last person who had served as a keeper under the old U.S. Lighthouse Service. He joined the Lighthouse Service as a seaman on the tender Tulip in 1937. 2 years later, he took a position as a keeper of Old Orchard Shoal Light in Lower New York Bay.
Following service in the Army during World War II, he maintained aids to navigation around New York's Governor's Island for some years. He then became the keeper at Coney Island, where he would spend the rest of his life.
Frank continued to maintain the grounds and kept a close eye on the light and fog signal, climbing 87 steps in the tower daily. He visited the White House in 1989 as a guest of President George H.W. Bush and said the president was, I quote, nuts about lighthouses. Coney Island Lighthouse was automated in 1989, but the Coast Guard retained Frank as the resident caretaker.
Our conversation today is with Greg Goldstein, the grandson of Frank Schubert. Greg's wife, Lisa, also took part in the conversation. Greg is a tax accountant on Staten Island. As you'll hear, he has many fond memories of his grandfather and his time at the Coney Island Lighthouse. Let's listen to my conversation with Greg and Lisa Goldstein now. I'm speaking this afternoon with Greg Goldstein and his wife, Lisa, and they are on Staten Island, New York. Is that correct? Is that where you live? Yeah, Staten Island. And Greg, of course, is the grandson of the famous Frank Schubert. So thank you so much, Greg and Lisa, for joining me today.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're so welcome. So, Greg, let me ask you, first of all, your grandfather moved to Coney Island Light Station in 1960 with his wife and 3 children. And I think your mother was his daughter, Francine. Do I have that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And your cousin, Scott, who I've had contact with in the past, who's done a lot to preserve his grandfather's memory, is the son of?
My mother's youngest brother, Kenneth.
Okay. So you and Scott are cousins. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just trying to get all of that clear in my mind. So when you were a kid, did you visit Coney Island? Did you visit and before we were recording here, you referred to him as Pop. I think you called him Pop growing up.
Yes.
Did you visit Pop at Coney Island when you were a kid?
All the time. We spent just about every Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter Sunday over at Pop's house, with my grandparents. My grandmother passed away in 1986. I was born in 68 there are many pictures of wee little G. And growing up there, we were there constantly. Aside from holidays, we were there weekends in the summer, days in the summer. My brother Stephen and I would stay over for, a couple days at a time, spend a lot of time with my grandparents. So, yeah, spent a lot of time there growing up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was, even though we went home with mom and dad, that I always considered this my home. I really did.
Yeah.
And then when I say I grew up there, yeah, it's kind of because I really did grow up there.
Did it seem like something special and unusual to you at the time, or was it just like where Pop lived and where you spent a lot of your time?
Well, that's funny because, I don't remember spending time with my friends' grandparents. A lot of my friends would come over, my school friends, my neighborhood friends, we'd come over and, go fishing, play on the lawn, do kid stuff growing up. I don't remember seeing, going to my other friends' grandparents' house to hang with them. And it's like, well, there's something special here. And it's like, doesn't everybody have a famous kind of grandfather? And it just, it was special. And I don't know if I appreciated it at the time, but I definitely look back very fondly, and I appreciate everything that, went on in, my 30 some odd years of being there, from when I was born until Pop died. Yeah, it was something special. It really
Yeah.
was.
Did the other kids say, "Can you take me to the lighthouse? Can I go to the lighthouse?" That kind of thing?
Yeah, they did. They did. And, trips up the tower to see the beautiful views of, the harbor and the rest of Coney Island, and the fishing over the summers. You can't beat that.
So I think when most people think of Coney Island, they think of the old amusement park and the beach, the boardwalk and everything. Does does the Coney Island area hold special memories for you as well?
It does. The only thing really about that neck of the woods would be Nathan's, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We really, I mean, we went to the amusement park every so often. But for the most part, it was, the house, it was Seagate, going to Pops, and then the trip to, the occasional trip to Nathan's for some dogs and clam chowder in the winter. And pretty much
Yeah.
that was the extent of my going to the amusement park.
I've been to Nathan's, by the way. I had a hot dog and Manhattan style clam chowder. That was really good there. Yeah, I'm in New England, so I'm not supposed to admit that, but
Yeah, that little rivalry going on. Yeah, there was more than once though over the winter where I would go over to Pops and I would stop at Nathan's for some chowder for the both of us, and yeah, we'd enjoyed that a lot.
sure. So backing up a little bit to your grandfather's history, as I think I mentioned earlier, he joined the Lighthouse Service. I think it was 1937. He was a crewman on a lighthouse tender, Tulip, for a while. They had a bunch of tenders named for flowers.
Yes.
He became keeper at Old Orchard Shoal Light in New York Harbor for a while. Did he talk about those early days with you, with the family?
Well, he did mention his time on the Tulip, because he was actually on the ship during the '38 hurricane.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes, and there was a magazine printed in somewhere in the '80s that told the story of that hurricane and how it hit New London and how it affected the Tulip and everything. And he was quoted in the article, and for the life of me, I cannot find it right now, so I can't even tell you where to look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the whole story of the Tulip and the hurricane and everything. And yeah, he did get into some of his older stories. When he was at Old Orchard, that was the situation where I think he was on duty for like 3 weeks and then off for a week. So by day 18, 19, 20, he's going a little stark crazy. He's got to get off the rock. And the week that he was off duty was, that your typical drunken sailor in port type of thing, But yeah, that's basically those are the old stories that he told us about, his time in there. Yeah, I believe after Old Orchard, he was on Governor's Island for a while, and then he was in the Army for a while, and then when he got out, he went back to Governor's Island, I believe, and then got posted to Norton's Point in 1960.
Yeah. Speaking of hurricanes, Old Orchard Shoal Light was wiped out by Hurricane Sandy, so the lighthouse isn't there anymore.
Yeah, it's not. The rock is still there, but the lighthouse got redeposited into the Atlantic. So
yeah, I photographed it not too long before it disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in World War II. I read that he told when he joined the Army, he said he was tired of being on boats, but he actually ended up captaining patrol boats, I believe, during the war.
Yeah, that was it. And then that's why when he came out, when they did post him on his when he left the Army, he went back to Governor's Island. So he was still in the service, but now he's on land as opposed to out in the shoal or out on a tender or anything.
Yeah. So I'll jump ahead now, and Lisa, feel free to jump in anytime. I'm getting more towards more recent history. So Lisa, when did you first meet Greg's grandfather, Frank?
Well, I first met Gregory in kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
So we go all the way back because, we grew up in kind of the same neighborhood, same school, same class, whatever.
Uh-huh.
Then around the 4th grade, I'm going to say maybe I was 10 years old, we went on a field trip to the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
normally the field trips when you're that age, we would go to the Statue of Liberty, or we'd go to, the Circle Line or some other such thing like that. We went on a field trip to the Lighthouse. And that was the first experience that I'd ever had meeting Greg's family. We were kind of a thing in the fourth grade.
Wow.
We were kind of a thing in the fourth grade. You know how that is. But it was the first time that I had met his parents, that I had met his grandfather and his grandmother. We spent the entire day eating outside. It was barbecue, picnic bench style. And we went up to the lighthouse. And then when it was all over, we had to write an essay about it, whatever.
Yeah.
But that was my first experience meeting any of Greg's family, including his grandfather. And that was in 1978.
Okay. Did you call him Pop too?
I did not call him anything. I was terrified, so I didn't call him anything.
I think Mr. Schubert would have been in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
More the wallflower, taking everything in. I didn't really engage much, but I just remember a feeling of pride that more from Gregory than anybody else. Like, this is where I grew up. This is where I spend my time. This is my family. And he wanted everybody to enjoy it and feel the way he felt about it. And I was in awe. I'm on the ocean. I can see the Verrazano. I got, this giant lighthouse in front of me. So it was a big deal. And I never forget it. I'll never forget it.
I can see that it'd be a big deal. So I guess this is a question for both of you, but from different angles. A pretty general question, but Greg, what was Frank like as a grandfather? Would you say?
He was the best. He really was. Aside from his duties at the house, he doted on all of us. I mean, there were 7 grandkids, and he doted on all of us. There wasn't anything you couldn't ask him for. I mean, he would be right there. And, one of his little hobbies was he had a workshop in his garage, and he would build you anything. Okay. We had, when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, my brother and I are playing with the little Tonka trucks. He built us a little garage house for our Tonka trucks. We had the slot car racetrack set up in the dining room. The little remote control, the very earliest remote control cars, Pop bought them for me and Steven, and we would race them on the sidewalk at the house, or to my grandmother's chagrin, through the kitchen.
I would also, I'm going to cut in here and say the man had a talent for woodworking. We have furniture here that he built that you would think came out of a department store. That's how precise. And so he built beautiful things. I have coffee tables. He painted. I have paintings that he did that they're still waiting to be framed, but I have them. So it wasn't just nailing a couple of pieces of wood together and here grandkids go play. He took pride in everything that he did, including making toys for his grandkids out of wood. So that pride carried through all aspects of his life. Yeah,
and the coffee table that was in his living room is now up in my man cave. And that's where it's going to stay until we redo our living room.
It's beautiful.
But it's a beautiful piece of furniture. And like Lisa said, you would think you got it, somewhere on, special built. And it was because Pop did it in the garage.
He took pride in everything that he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I read in one article that he, when he was way back when he was at Old Orchard Shoal Lighthouse, that he took up marquetry.
Yes.
Which I read that what that is, marquetry is the coverage of the entire surface of a board or piece of furniture with veneer in the form of a skillfully applied design or picture. So is that something he did all his life as well?
Yes. In fact, the coffee table, the top, I mean, the base is basically, it really is 4 legs on a box, but the top is got a beautiful inlaid piece of marquetry where he's got the wood. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle, but with the wood, each piece has got the wood grains going in a different direction.
Use talent.
And all right, yes, growing up, he told me the secret. He told my brother, and I think Scotty and his brother Christopher, the secrets. But the way he did it, and painstakingly with a scalpel practically to cut the wood to the right size, and then lay them in place, and then veneer, and then stain and shellac over them, and it's just
It's beautiful.
And it really are beautiful pieces. And there were a couple other pieces that he had in the house when he passed. And instead of making tables out of them, one of my family friends has it hanging on the wall because it's almost like a piece of art if you think about it. And to look at it, it's really a beautiful piece. And it's just amazing that he would do this. That he could do this. The
fact that he left all of that behind for his grandchildren, to have, like, we have these pieces, it's a constant reminder. So Frank Schubert is all over our house.
Yeah.
22 years after he's passed, everywhere you look, there is a piece of him still here, and still living on.
And actually, along with the little jigsaw puzzle designs, he took a picture of the Cutter Eagle and he made a marquetry piece for, I want to say, a retiring admiral that retired somewhere in the 80s. And they presented it to him on his retirement. I think my grandfather made 4 of them. One of them went to the retiring admiral. I have one, and my uncle Kenneth has one. And it's an amazing piece. I mean, it almost looks like it's painted, but it's all wood.
Yeah.
Like I said, painstakingly put together. And it's just, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. So it sounds like it goes beyond craftsmanship. He was really an artist.
Yeah, he really was. He really, really was.
Yeah, well, that's great that you have those things. So let me ask you, Lisa, how did you see Frank as a person?
Well, I can't really say at 11 years old, 10 years old that I can honestly remember. My memories of that field trip are in flashes like pictures. So I remember pieces, but not necessarily conversations. When I met him again, if you fast forward 25 years, still terrified because he was a tall, kind of commanding person. I am 5-foot wallflower, so that, so I stayed quiet around him. I didn't engage or whatever. And because of that, he nicknames me Noisy because I never said a word going to holidays and things like that. I did not have a lot of time with him before he passed because I started coming around again in 2002. He passed in 2003. So my interactions with him, I treasure the times we did spend together, but there really weren't that many. But I remember him as being very commanding, very, an in-charge kind of person, even into his 80s. He was very in control. I do remember early on when we had started dating, going to the bowling alley because Frank bowls regularly.
We all did.
And the whole family still does. And
still do.
Frank was bowling with his senior, I guess, team or whatever. I was looking for him and I saw Frank and I said, "Where's Gregory?" And he called him Knucklehead. And that is how he referred to Gregory all the time, was Knucklehead.
Affectionately, right?
But that's how I remember him. I remember him as being a tall, very commanding, always in charge type of a person.
Yeah.
He was. I liked him a lot.
We said before the light was automated in 1989, but your grandfather it was his decision, right, to stay living there.
They basically gave him the choice of retiring elsewhere or retiring here. And I don't think he really ever wanted to go anywhere else. And basically, if you're going to retire, what better place to retire to than,
on the beach,
right there, 100 feet from the water. And since Coast Guard wanted somebody to keep an eye on the place, take care of the grounds, and just a presence there, he decided to stay on.
Yeah.
And obviously they had no problem with it. Even though he was still, the civilian employee of the Coast Guard, it was a post. And he decided, I'll stay here. Why retire? He's going to go find someplace else to retire to. He's not going to have the lawn. He's not going to have maybe not a place for his wood shop, So, he basically retired there.
Did he live there year round right up to the end, or was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was another thing. Before they automated, somebody had to be on site 24/7. So now my grandfather would bowl one night a week. He would go play golf with the buddies, My grandmother was always there. Okay, when Pop took one of his little jaunts. When my grandmother passed away, if Pop was going to go do anything, somebody had to come and house sit. And my mother would do it, my uncle would do it, I would do it. As my cousins got older, they would jump in and do it. So just that we'd have a presence in case something happened, because that was still an active aid to navigation. It's the numbers, the phone number was still listed in the directory of, the maritime directories. So there were plenty of times people would call up for the tide schedule. They would call up, even to report an incident. They could call the house. So somebody had to be there to field those phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if Pop, like I said, wanted to go to the PX at Fort Hamilton, somebody had to be at the house. So like I said, that would be my uncle, my mother, even my aunt or myself, or like I said, one of my cousins or my brother. So one of us was around to keep an eye on things.
Coney Island Lighthouse Light Station is inside a gated community. Is it Seagate? Do I remember that right?
Yes,
yeah.
It is.
So there is not, and was not, I think, throughout the time your grandfather was there wasn't really general public access. The people couldn't just drive up to see the lighthouse, that kind of thing. He wasn't like people at some lighthouses that are major tourist attractions. There are people looking in the windows and everything else. So he probably didn't get that so much. Or did he get people showing up unexpectedly sometimes? Or?
He did. As things, went on, he did get a lot of people that would just show up out of the blue. How they got past the Seagate guards, I don't know. But a lot of times you could go up to the gate and say, "Oh, I'm here to see Frank Schubert." And instead of them calling to check, they would ask them, "Oh, do you have an appointment? Did you schedule?" "Oh, yeah, I have a schedule. I'm supposed to see him at 10. And, they would get through.
Yeah.
And depending upon how these people approached him was how he responded. And I could tell as he aged, he kind of got a little tired of some of these people because they expected him to be the major tour guide and to invite everybody in for a cup of coffee with open arms. And, sometimes he didn't feel like it. Sometimes he just wanted to sit there and watch the ball game. And so I could see, Pop getting a little frustrated with that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if, most people, if they came up to him as, and they were nice about it, he'd be more than happy to show them the grounds. Maybe not so much take them up the tower because it was still a liability thing, an insurance thing. We couldn't just let anybody climb up the tower. But he would probably let them go through the grounds or at least look around and take some pictures and, see the sights from that corner of the world,
There were articles late in his life, and I think maybe a video or something too, where he talked about being a little tired of the same questions over and over again.
I would imagine after all those years of the same thing repeatedly, I think anybody would get a little ornery after a while with that.
Sure. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can see, if you approached him the right way, he was probably great and generous with his time and everything. But
Absolutely.
Since he passed away, he's been honored with some awards. I think there was one from the National Lighthouse Museum. I saw a picture of you and some of the other family there for that event in 2012. So when those kind of things happen, it must be nice for the family to see him remembered like that.
It certainly was. I remember that dinner, and it certainly was an honor, and we were privileged and very lucky to be able to accept it on his behalf. And just the fact that in 2012, 9 years after he passed, somebody is still thinking about him and wants to honor him and what he did through his life.
Yeah.
That's just an incredible feeling on my end, and I know my mother and my parents and my cousins and my aunt and uncle, we all, were very honored to be there. And like I said, accepted on his behalf. And, just the fact that somebody's remembering him, after all 9 years after he passed, it's an incredible feeling. It really is.
Well, here we are 22 years later and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, he's an important part of Lighthouse history. He's he's one of those figures that'll be remembered, I think, in lighthouse history in general for a very long time. So has there been any talk, or would you like to see some other kind of memorial to him? Any ideas about that?
I don't know. I mean, if I wouldn't say no if, somebody else was to come along and honor him. It just, again, another shot of pride and being very proud of my grandfather for what he did.
Yeah.
And now 22 years after he's passed, if somebody wants to come out and honor him, present him with something, name a day after him, or something, that would be just incredible.
I really would like to see some sort of a small monument on the property. Where he spent his lighthouse career was right there in Coney Island. So somewhere on the grounds, I know that from being there as an adult, that whole property was surrounded with hydrangeas. And to this day, we have, and I do not like gardening, I despise the dirt. There is a hydrangea in front of our house that we look at as representing what all the hydrangea that he had. And I would love to see some sort of a small monument or a garden area or something that would, when people do go there, that it reminds them of who's here and what he did. And that's the kind of sort of memorial that I would like to see.
Yeah. Well, even before you said that, I was thinking it'd be nice if there was some sort of plaque or something there on the site. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful idea, perfect idea. So is the hydrangea you have at your house for like a cutting from his hydrangea?
It's not at the time, hindsight's 2020. Like I said, I don't like the dirt. I don't like any of it. It's pretty and everything, but we decided that actually we were in the supermarket and they had the little hydrangea with the two little things, and we brought it home and we planted it, and I didn't expect it to survive, but it has flourished. The thing is amazing, and it is the only living thing outside our house.
Well, that's great. It's a little reminder of him as well. Yeah. So the lighthouse, as we said, it's in a gated community, so it's off limits to the public. I got to go there with the Coast Guard 15 or so years ago, so I felt very privileged. And I think I saw something about a school group visiting there, so I don't know how often that happens. But do they open it up occasionally for that sort of thing?
Well, that particular school group happened to have been my cousin's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. My cousin Christopher, his daughter, Scotty, was able to connect with the Coast Guard, and they had a little field trip, same as we had in fourth grade. Mm-hmm. Now, my little cousin had the experience with her fourth grade or third grade class. And that was basically, I don't know if we're going to be doing that going forward as much as we did when we were kids. But I think it was a one-off for, my little cousin to see where her great-grandfather, worked, did his thing, and where her father grew up,
Which is the same kind of pride that Gregory had when we went in 1978. It's like the pride of, this is where I grew up and this is my grandfather, our lighthouse, and I want to share that with you. So it's the same thing. And
while she obviously is not going to grow up there, she at least got to see what we did, what we grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw the video where she speaks a little bit, and she was very articulate, and
she is.
It obviously meant a lot to her to see the place in person. That was really nice.
She's a cute kid.
She really is.
Yeah. Really, really smart. You can see it.
Yeah, she's
so has there been any talk that you're aware of, I know it's not going to be open on any kind of regular basis, probably ever, but has there been any talk of like maybe an occasional, even yearly open house or anything like that? Or is that?
I think one of the big obstacles with that might actually be Seagate. Okay. And again, with a liability type of thing. The Coast Guard will probably be on board doing it, maybe a one-off or twice a year type of thing. But I think, Seagate since they control the area from the outside world to the lighthouse, might be concerned about like a liability thing and having strangers coming through and whatnot. Yeah. If something could be put together and maybe some insurance thing taken care of, they might be on board. But I think it's more of a one-off type of thing,
Sure.
I actually think if anything like that was going to take place, probably Scotty would be the point of contact for something like that, because he's the one really that took the reins as far as preservation and making the contacts and keeping everything together post.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's got pretty much all of the archive pictures and logbooks and anything that came from, the house.
And
Scotty's got it all.
Yeah, we gave him all that kind of stuff that we had. This way we could keep the whole thing in one place. And, instead of I have 10 pictures, you have 20 pictures, I have a video. No, we put everything together with Scotty. So anything like that, he would definitely be the point of contact for that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all that, has there been any talk of maybe a book on your grandfather? Has that been considered?
Now there's an idea.
There's an idea, and I don't know. Do you have any inside information in that respect? Do you know of anything brewing or?
No, I don't. But I would certainly encourage you, and if I could help in any way, I'd be happy to. So maybe it's something we could talk about.
It's something to consider.
You know what? I actually just got an image in my head for what the cover of the book could look like.
Oh, that's
It's not even written, and I have the cover already.
That's scary.
In my head.
Well, I remember there's some great photos of your grandfather I've seen, but one I think I remember, a black and white photo, kind of a low angle with the lighthouse, him and the lighthouse behind him. Do you know the picture I'm talking about?
In fact, that picture, when Pop passed, my cousin Scott went through and scanned about 1 million pictures. And that was one of them. And I think it was in a folder marked Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
So at one time, AP sent somebody over to do some shots for some article, interview, whatever it was. And I actually used that picture on his memorial when he passed. And that was, something. I know the picture. I know exactly the picture you're referring to.
Yeah.
That could be the cover, by the way.
Could be.
There's that's a nice idea, is to make
put it on my notes.
some kind of book history thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's store that under to be talked about later.
Absolutely.
So Scott, your cousin had a website about the lighthouse and your grandfather, but it looks like it's not up anymore.
It's very possible that it's down while he reorganizes the archives, because a lot has been added since that website first went live.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff that we had given him, a lot of other things that have been unearthed over the years. So I'm pretty sure that he's revamping all the archives to get them in a media that he could put back on a website and revamp the whole thing. So it's not that it's gone forever. I think it's just a temporary down.
All right, so we're getting close to wrapping things up here, but I have one final question. This is for both of you, and you've sort of answered already, but I just want to give you another chance. If anything you want to add, when you think of your grandfather, or Lisa, when you think of your grandfather-in-law, Pop Frank Schubert, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So, who wants to go first?
He was the best grandfather ever. He really was. He would do anything you asked of him. We had a great time growing up there. As a kid, it was just the greatest experience ever. I can't even relate how it was. And then as I got older, and I mentioned before that Pop bowled a couple nights a week. I became an adult bowler. I bowled in a league with him, and my brother came in, and we all bowled together, and we just had a great time doing those things together. He taught me how to play golf, and he was really good, a really good golfer.
I forgot about that.
I'm terrible, but we had fun doing it.
Yeah,
had a great time, and chipping little golf balls on the front lawn, and then going to the driving range, or like I said, practicing on the bowling alleys. We had a great time just doing things together.
Yeah,
the occasional Mets game and things like that, and watching ball games together just on a lazy summer afternoon.
Yeah.
It was just the greatest thing. It really was.
I think that every boy growing up should have a relationship with their grandfather that way. So that's Frank as the man, as the person, as the father, as the grandfather, not as the lighthouse keeper. That he would have been that, whether or not he lived there or not. The fact that he did just adds to his, his whole persona. It just adds to everything. Unfortunately, I did not have a lot of time. I met him in the 4th grade. we came full circle, Gregory and I. When I think of the lighthouse, I think more of the lighthouse because like I said, my interactions with Frank were limited. I unfortunately only had a few months before that he passed. But
Yeah.
we'll tell you that as much as people, they romanticize the lighthouse, it's a real thing because I went up that lighthouse when I was 11. And I remember it being this massive, giant tube of spiral stairs getting to the top of the light. When Gregory came back into my life, just 25 years later, he took me there. And I hadn't been there since we were children. But we went up the tower, and it was the tightest, most claustrophobic space I could have imagined.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I remember this being big. And he said, you were 10. So,
Yeah.
all things considered, it's going to feel a little tight, a little small.
Yeah.
Going to the top after all those years, and then he and I kind of reconnecting and starting a new relationship, it made it full circle for me. So when I think of Coney Island Light, that's what I think of. It's romanticized in that way. Frank, I wish that I had more years to get to know him.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of what has really come through Greg and the rest of the family. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice that you got to meet him and to get to know him a bit.
I did. Yeah. We spent his birthday was September. The September before he passed was the first family gathering, like huge. It was tremendous, and that was where I really got to meet everybody, all of his cousins and aunts and uncles. And a little funny story on the side: Gregory and I are cousin-in-laws because his cousin Christopher, his Uncle Kenneth's son Christopher, married Lizzie, who is my father's cousin's child. So they married a couple of months before we did, and the running joke was which one of us is going to marry our cousin on our wedding day. And it turned out they got married first. And so it turns out that Gregory and I are actually cousin-in-laws.
Oh, that's funny.
So it was, it's small world.
Yeah.
Very small world. But I wish I had more time with them. I do.
Mm-hmm. As you're both talking, I'm thinking a lot of Lighthouse fans, a lot of people listening to this podcast would know who Frank Schubert was, in Lighthouse history, but they might not know so much about they knew what he did as a lighthouse keeper, but not so much about who he was. And you've filled in a lot of that to
tell us more
about.
He was absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because he was the father and grandfather before he was a lighthouse keeper.
And during,
and I still miss him. I really do.
Yeah.
I you know what? I haven't been back to the house in 20 some odd years. I kind of miss that, because hey, it's my childhood right there. But I miss him a lot. I do.
Yeah.
And I see him all the time. Little things around the house, the little Harbor Light models and pictures and things like that, and pictures of him and the dog and all sorts of things. Yeah, I see him, and obviously his coffee table. But I just miss,
Sure. Yeah, well, that comes out in everything you say about him. So that's
thanks.
So, Greg and Lisa, thanks so much. This is really great. As I said, I think it fills in a lot for Lighthouse fans who knew about him, but maybe not so much about the man, Frank Schubert. Yeah. So this is a lot of fun talking with you, and let's talk about the book idea sometime.
Yeah, I like that idea. Don't be shy.
All right, I won't. So, Lisa and Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
This is a lot of fun.
Another one of Frank Schubert's grandsons, Scott Schubert, has an extensive website devoted to his grandfather at ConeyIslandLighthouse.com. On the site, you can see photos of the family's years at Coney Island, along with videos and media articles. Scott's parents were married on the front lawn at Coney Island Light Station.
Yeah, I spoke with Scott Schubert back in 2003, just after his grandfather passed away, and I was writing an article at that time for Lighthouse Digest. I was sorry Scott wasn't able to take part in this interview, but I really enjoyed talking with Greg. His memories of his grandfather are pretty special. I think anybody who listened to this interview would agree. By the way, I was lucky enough to visit Coney Island Light Station back in 2008. While I was writing a book on New York Lighthouse. lighthouses. I was lucky to have a Coast Guard escort because otherwise it's a very private community. As Greg and I talked about in the interview, there really is no public access to the lighthouse. Again, it's a very private little community there called Seagate. We all want public access at these places, but sometimes it just isn't possible. Of course, Coney Island is most famous for the beach and amusement park there. Have you ever been to Coney Island, Michelle?
I have not, Jeremy. I've been to one lighthouse on Long Island, and that was Fire Island Lighthouse. I didn't get to climb because it was after hours. I was there in the evening, just around sunset. But one of these days I'll make it back there because I would like to see more lighthouses.
Yeah, Fire Island's a great one, for sure.
It is. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of really good lighthouses on Long Island. People don't think of Coney Island as part of Long Island, but it is. It's part of Brooklyn, which, of course, is part of New York City. But Coney Island and Brooklyn are really at the southwestern end of Long Island. But anyway, my wife Charlotte and I visited Coney Island around 15 years ago. Of course, the old amusement park was way past its heyday, but we enjoyed the Coney Island Museum. And of course, we had to eat Nathan's, which is probably the most famous hot dog joint in the country. That's where they have the annual hot dog eating contest and 4th of July. I have no interest in that, but it was a lot of fun. And not long after our visit there, Coney Island got hit really hard by Hurricane Sandy. I'm sure you remember. There was a storm surge of 11 feet at Coney Island, and many of the homes there were left uninhabitable. But they've pretty much recovered from the hurricane at this point. Now, the museum, the really good Coney Island Museum, was really badly damaged, but they're back up and running now. So before we close up shop for today, do you have any quotes about summer, Michelle?
I sure do, Jeremy. The writer and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, quote, "Live in the sunshine, swim in the sea, drink the wild air," end quote.
I will second that for sure, but I just want to add also visit a lighthouse.
Definitely. That's a great summer activity.
Yep.
Be sure to visit uslhs.org to learn all about tours, preservation grants, and everything the U.S. Lighthouse Society offers. Remember that donations and memberships support this podcast. And if you listen with Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us.
We'll be back with a Lighthearted Light episode next Sunday and a new full episode in 2 weeks. Until then, to all our regular listeners and our new ones, thanks so much for listening and
keep a good light.